Hi, I'm Eileen Roche, editor of Designs and Machine Embroidery magazine, and I'm an embroidery expert, just like you can be pretty soon. You're only a couple projects away from that. This season, it's all about travel, bringing souvenirs home, and experiences. So maybe you're headed on a sewing adventure, or an embroidery adventure, a cruise, or a camp, or just a 2-day retreat. How about making some really fun patches for you and your friends to remember that fun trip on? Patches are pretty simple to make. You're going to use water-soluble stabilizer, a very heavy-duty water-soluble stabilizer, and you'll need a design that's been digitized specifically for patches. It should have a heavy fill and a wide satin outline. It could also be applique, so that would be, a heavy fabric with a heavy satin outline. Either one works. I have selected some really fun patches that have happy thoughts and fun sayings in attractive colors. I like to use highly contrasting threads for patches because the lettering is very tiny. And in order to see it from a distance of even just 4 or 5 feet, you really want high contrast. So go ahead and choose your favorite colors and make sure they're really different in value. So we'll go over to the machine and with our 4x4 hoop. Now I will tell you that you can do multiple patches in a hoop, but because the heavy needle penetrations will penetrate the stabilizer and could possibly separate from the patch, it's best to do 2 patches at one time in this size hoop and not anymore. So hoop the stabilizer so that it's fairly tight, but not as tight as a drum, because if it's really taut during the embroidery process, that patch can separate from the stabilizer before you're done stitching. So let's go take a look. We'll attach our hoop to the machine, touch the screen, go into embroidery, and our patches are on our USB stick, and I'm going to select So Happy and touch Set. Now, it's in the center of the screen, but I want to bring in my second design. So I'm going to go into the notes and I'm going to adjust my embroidery frame display just by toggling through the options. I'm going to wait until I see 4x4 or 200 by 200 will appear. And let's go ahead and punch that up a little bit. There we go. 10 centimeters by 10 centimeters is the same as a 4x4 hoop. We'll touch OK. Now I can see that square, and that tells me how far I can move my patch and still stay in the sewing field. Now I'll add my second design. Back to the USB stick, back to my folder. It's so nice to keep everything organized in these folders. And then I'll just move this. You could use your finger, or you can use the jog keys and have it move. You just want to make sure that the red box that is around the design is within that larger gray box. That's telling us that when I touch OK, the machine is going to know that I want to stitch both of these designs in the same hooping, in this size hoop. So I have my pink already threaded, my beautiful pink thread, and we'll stitch color 1, which is a fill stitch. Now, this is going to take a little while. Each of these patches takes 9 minutes. So for embroidery on a television, that could be a little too long. So we'll let this stitch, and then we'll go back to over to the table, and I'll show you some details of what to look for when you're stitching patches. If you find that your embroidery design does begin to separate, you can cut another piece of water-soluble stabilizer and slide it underneath the patch that is giving you trouble. So at the machine, you would literally just place that right underneath and let the machine begin to stitch, and that should cover up any kind of perforations. So the first color that we're stitching is the pink. And that's a really pretty bright color. And then we're going to, color number 2 is our outline, and I selected that bright green, highly contrasting. Now, when it gets to the letters, I chose white because I really want to make sure that we get to see the word "so happy" on that pink background. White most certainly would pop, and the reverse is true. Black would really pop also. It is going to stitch right over the fill. It's not a hole. It's not going to create a hole under the letters. So as that stitches, it's going to do all the work for us, which is one of the best things about embroidery, right? So I'm going to take this stabilizer and patches out of the hoop. To separate the water-soluble stabilizer from the patch, hold the patch and with your thumb or fingernail, just kind of separate, begin, and then it just actually pulls right off. Just starting is a little bit, you just have to add a little bit of force, but not too much. Okay, so here we have 2 patches that are ready to receive a fusible permanent adhesive to the wrong side. So I have a hot iron here, and I'm going to place my patches wrong side down on a protective surface so that the adhesive doesn't get stuck to my ironing surface. And I'll trim this down because I'm only doing 2 patches at one time. And we scooch them together, get them nice and close, and then I will take the iron and press that down. You want to apply some pressure. This is a dry iron. I count to about 5. And then just release and wait till it cools because it gets quite hot under there, and then you just remove it and then really let it cool. So we will let that cool. But I've already done that on these couple elements, these 3 patches here. So how about if we go ahead and remove our protective pressing surface and bring this little makeup bag, or I'm going to use it for a bob and stash bag. Now this is cotton on the outside, but it's lined in vinyl because it's a makeup bag. So I'm a little worried about pressing heat, and I don't want to fuse the 2 layers of the bag together. So I'm going to fold up my pressing sheet and put it inside the bag while I adhere the patches. So I think I'll do bob and stash in the center. And just kind of take a look at, where you're positioning them. You want them to be within, some kind of element. Like there's this triangular diamond shape. So I think I'll just center my patches there. And then I'm going to take a pressing cloth and lay it over top. And I have to give it a little squirt. And then I'm just going to fuse that down. I'm going to hold that in place. You could probably use steam, but I like to use a pressing cloth. I find that it works just great, and I can control the amount of moisture in the application. And then just remove. Now you can let it cool a moment and check the edges. If it's not adhered, you just repeat the process. So that's awful fun. So now let's go ahead and take a hat. You can see I have this queen already embellished and added to the black hat. Let's take "So Happy," and we can apply a little bit of, oh, here we go. We already have "So Happy" done. So we'll peel this off. Now when you peel it off, you want to make sure that you kind of just peel away the excess that extends around the edge. It's no big deal. Take a ham and put the hat over the ham. I'm going to add this patch right to the crown in the center. Now you do want to make sure that you're centered, and there's probably a better way to do this than on camera like I'm doing, but I'll just go ahead and give that a shot of steam, and take my iron and press that in place. Now this might take a couple attempts because it's a curved surface, and you might find that you have to rotate the iron a little bit to get that heat applied. And once you do, there's your patch. Now I could use a little bit more heat on here, but once it's in place, it's never going to come off. So now you can do patches for all kinds of mementos, of souvenirs, of trips, or any fun event in your life.